You've found AHO Radio. We're authentic human outliers coming together to help heal the fear of being authentic. To bring back genuine human conversation. No hype, no sensationalism, just honest talk about the critical issues affecting society, affecting humankind. And now, here are the hosts of AHO Radio, John Krotec and Bill Protzmann. Hey, good morning. John Krotec, Bill Protzmann here from the west coast of California. Looking outside, it's going to be a nice, pretty day after the clouds burn off, roll back out to the ocean. How's things in Florida?
Well, you don't be fooled, anybody watching. I'm not in San Francisco, but we're going to talk a little bit about the Golden Gate today. I'm doing great. It just rained. It's in the mid-80s. I think it's going to be in the mid-90s today. And, you know, I can't complain. I've got all my teeth in my head and I can walk, so I'm good to go, man.
That's about the basics of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Super excited for today's guest. You know, about 3 years ago, well, let me just say this. Every now and then, human beings come into our acquaintance that make a difference and leave a mark on your psyche. And one of those guys is our guest today, former CHIPS, California Highway Patrol, motorcyclist, veteran, Kevin Briggs of Pivotal Points. And I met Kevin in San Antonio a little over 3 years ago now. He was in San Antonio doing what he does best, affecting lives in a positive way. His story is one that resonates in any time. And the work that he has done, Bill, with people suffering through trauma and actually saving lives from suicide. This guy, Kevin Briggs, I'm humbled, honored to have him on AHO Radio today. And it's good to see you, man. I haven't seen you in the last 3 years, but I've been watching you. And here you have Kevin Briggs. Thanks, Kevin, for being with Bill and I today.
Hey, guys. Happy to be here. Thank you for having me.
Oh, my gosh.
Absolutely.
Welcome aboard. Ever since the Deaths of Despair study that came out, sort of pre the last election, maybe it was 14, 15, something like that, I've been thinking about this because here we are, you know, white middle-aged guys, and that's the fastest growing suicide demographic. And I don't know if that tracks for your experience on the bridge or not, Kevin, but I have this heart for acceptance and being able to accept somebody who's thinking about suicide, like even right in the moment. How do you do that, right? What do you bring to that situation?
Well, first, you are absolutely right. White males are the number one individual that has come to the bridge and taken their life. In the past several years, it's getting younger and younger and younger. We're seeing a trend, unfortunately. And I want to see the numbers go down, but they're still growing. You know, we're seeing car accidents, the rates of loss of life go down. We're seeing the homicide rate go down, but we're seeing the suicide rates go up, over 48,000 a year. So
isn't it, Kevin, isn't it kind of a global phenomenon now? Aren't global suicides like spiked like way up?
Yeah. They're saying 800,000 to 1 million people a year.
Wow.
Globally. You know, that's, and it's stuff that we can help folks out. We really can, just by talking to someone, learning the signs, what are we looking for, and being there for them and getting them more access to help. It's tough sometimes getting help. I have a boy who's suicidal and just trying to get him some help has been difficult.
Yeah, I remember
let's back up just a little bit, Kevin. Tell us a little bit about your background and what got you involved on this journey, because I know you talk about that, and again, you're a speaker. Let people know Kevin has spoken to hundreds and hundreds of groups about suicide and suicide prevention. But give us a little bit of insight into your background, Kevin, and how this all happened.
Yep. So I'll go pretty quick through this, but right out of high school, I was not ready for college. Went into the military, United States Army. Spent 3 years in the Army. In the Army, I got cancer, testicular cancer. So that's a big one. You know, got out of Army in 3 years. Had to get a job, recuperated off of the cancer, started working in corrections. So I spent 3 years in corrections, 2 years at San Quentin, trying to get people skills. That's where a lot of that developed. After that, in 1990, I was hired on with the California Highway Patrol. So I spent 23 years with the patrol, a good 17 of those years working on the Golden Gate Bridge. And for about 10 years of that, I handled 3 to 4 cases a month of someone suicidal on the bridge, whether that be in the parking lots or up and over the pedestrian rail. So it worked out to just a ton of people. No badge of honor, nothing to claim. It's horrendous. It's crappy. But to meet those folks, so I did lose a couple, and that's how it is when you're in this business, so to speak. And it breaks our heart. It's in your head for the rest of your life. What could you have done different? But the majority of the time, if we can get to someone, they will come back over that rail, and we help them. And I don't say save. I don't think I saved anybody. I didn't rush into a burning building, anything like that. But I think I helped people in a very dark day, is how I like to explain it to folks. And as negotiators, that's what I think we're trying to do.
So literally talk them off the ledge, literally.
Right. What can we do to show them a little bit of light, a little bit of hope, without BSing them? I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to lie to them and tell them things are going to get better. They might not. So just by being there and really listening, my mantra is listen to understand. That's the big thing. When they're talking, I'm not going to interrupt. I want to hear everything about them. And that does a whole lot. It allows them to vent. And this is anywhere. We do this right at home. When you're out at coffee with folks, whatever that may be, listen to what's going on, especially today, because this is a tough time in our history right now. But to be able to listen to understand, to break that down, listen to understand, not to reply, but to understand.
Some great advice there. So did that lead into the pivotal points?
Absolutely. It really did. I did a Yahoo News segment, which I really didn't want to do back in, I believe it was 2012. I kind of wanted to pawn it off on the officers. I was a sergeant at the time here in Marin County. And when you cross that Golden Gate Bridge from San Francisco, you go into Marin, and I was out of the Marin area office. But they wanted to do me, and I thought it'd be a 15-minute video in my back lot of the Highway Patrol office or something. Well, we spent about 6 hours putting GoPros on my motorcycle up and down the bridge, going all over. So when that came out, it went, and I don't even know how I use this word, viral, so to speak. I'm not a big computer guy, but a lot of people saw it. And when I came back to work off of a vacation, I was getting all these requests to come out and speak. But I also got a chance. They asked me to do a TED Talk. And, they have TEDx's around, but they have one TED Talk per year. And I really hadn't watched much of any TED Talks. I didn't know much about it. So when I found out what it was all about, and oh my God, this is huge. So I did that TED Talk and then retired a little ways after that to come out. I formed Pivotal Points. I thought that was a good name for my business. We all have pivotal points daily. That could be a huge decision or just small ones. But now I travel and I talk about negotiations. I talk about my own struggles and battles with depression, losing my mom when she was just 49 years old, all the different things that happened to so many of us. So how can we get around that, and how can we have a higher quality of life?
How do you respond to dealing with your own sort of traumatic reflections, whether they're caused by the work that you do, other things in life? I mean, what's your go-to on that, Kevin?
I try to take things day by day. And if it gets bad, sometimes it's hour by hour. I get this anxiety to where I don't even want to leave the house at times. And it's tough. Like right now, I'm looking out a blue sky. It's a beautiful day out. But sometimes I just don't feel like going out. It might be 3 days of this, but I know it's going to pass. So sometimes, and other times I have to force myself. You have to be able to pull up your own bootstraps and go, you know what? I got to get out of this house. So I'll take my little dog here who's sitting in the sun, little Bella, and we go out for a walk. And that can do wonders for someone, just getting out of the house.
Yeah, I read you. I had to do that yesterday.
I'm glad you pointed that out, because one thing we talk about quite a bit, and it's been the topic of discussion, is trauma. And obviously it takes no prisoners, whether you're white, black, Latino, American Indian, whatever color, Asian. It's something that affects the human condition and humankind everywhere. Right. I was one of those guys, Kevin, that called the hotline. I was a guy that didn't want to be here. I was one of those guys that you've talked to on the side of the bridge. And what I found out in that journey was, and thank God we have guys like Kevin Briggs, because the person on the other end of the phone told me straight up, we can't save your marriage, but if you listen, we can save you. But you have to want to do it. And
That's it.
Personal responsibility, which I always wanted to blame somebody. And of course, we're not here for a shrink episode right now, but personal responsibility, I never took it for any of the bad feelings I ever had. I was always in a blame and guilt, shame kind of deal. And until I took personal responsibility for that trauma and realized it wasn't my fault, it helped me back on that road, so to speak. Is that kind of what you've seen in all your work?
I think so. I really do. If you don't want to be here, you're not going to be here. That's just the way it is. You have to want to be here. And then, we can find a path or different paths along the way and help folks. And one of them is, do you need medication? I have been on a couple of different medications for my depression. But that comes with a price too. There's things that they do to the body and stuff, but you have to want to be here. It starts with that. I have this quality of life pyramid, and it starts with us on top, self-care. And then it goes into professional care. And I'm not talking about just psychologists and psychiatrists, anybody, a life coach, anybody in a profession, your karate instructor, and then also your support, your family and friends. So all those, but I put myself, self-care on the top. It has to be. Before we can go out and start helping others, I think we got to dig deep and see, how are we doing?
Was this something that you had learned in the course of service, or did you come in like with an attitude of service back in the day, like when you were deciding what to do after high school?
I wanted to do this. I just didn't have direction. I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I wanted to go. So when I was working at San Quentin, I would see, of course, you would see California Highway Patrolmen and women driving up and down, and I didn't get tickets that I remember. One of the guys I was working with said, "Hey, I'm going out for the highway patrol. Come on, go with me, do it with me." And I go, "I don't know. They look kind of squared away. I don't know if I can do that." But I decided to go with them. I go, "You know what? This is really cool." I started doing some research about it, and I go, "If I'm in, I'm all in. I'm going to study. I'm going to work hard." So I made it, graduated fourth in the class, and unfortunately, he didn't make it, but he got me into it. So
that's how it works sometimes.
That's how it works.
Yeah, that's good, man.
But I found my niche. It's something that I wanted to do. And I didn't start working on the bridge. I was over in the East Bay for 4 or 5 years, just south of Oakland. But I didn't get back to Marin, my home, for some years. And when I did, I started working on the bridge. And mind you, I grew up in Marin and would cross that bridge all the time. My father crossed that bridge almost every day because he had a business in San Francisco. No idea the number of suicides on that bridge. No idea.
Can you, Kevin, can you tell listeners or the viewers, maybe 1 or 2 episodes, without giving away anybody's name, of success stories that just really stand out to you?
Yeah. Well, some folks have seen and heard of the story of Kevin Briggs, the black man over the rail. Actually, I saw him on the sidewalk before he went. But I got a call of a guy on a cell phone saying that he's going to jump off the bridge. So I'm at the north end of the bridge. I start working my way down on my motorcycle on the sidewalk. As I near the North Tower, I see the description of the guy, black guy, holding a cell phone. It matches the description of his clothing. That must be him. So as I stop and getting off my motorcycle, he looks towards me, back at me, and then jumps over the rail. But I yelled something, and he caught himself. And if you've seen that picture, he's standing on just this little pipe about this big.
Yeah.
Has one hand in his pocket. You can't see the other hand, but the other hand is up in his shirt because he's so cold. The bridge it's very, very cold. June, July, and August are probably the worst months to come down there because it's so foggy. But it's very cold, and it took a while for him to allow me to come up and speak with him. He was very angry, didn't want anybody near him. But he finally did, and we started chatting. And I told him, I'm not going to grab you. I'm not going to reach for you. I'm just here for you, and I'm going to listen if you want to talk. So we were there for about an hour and a half with him speaking and telling me all these things that have gone on in his life and why he is there today. So after listening to all this, I kept thinking in my head, what can I use? What can I tell this guy to give him some drive to continue on? And he told me about his little daughter, very, very young. And her birthday was coming up in a bit. I said, well, brother, man, don't you want to be there for her birthday? You know, what's she going to think every year at this time if you jump? What's going to happen? And you know that if a child loses a parent, they have a much higher chance of doing suicide themselves. So he talked a lot about her daughter. Tell me about her. And I wanted to dig into him like a tick and see what could I use to give this guy some hope. And eventually that I could see him tearing up. And, you know, that's what did it, was talking about his daughter. And I wasn't BSing him. Everything was absolutely true, to be there for her. So I said, man, you can come back here any day. But today, why don't you come on back? And there's a reason I don't grab folks, because I think it takes a hell of a lot of courage to go over that rail. It's only a 4-foot pedestrian rail. On the other side of that is like an I-beam until you're around the two towers. Around the towers is just this little bitty pipe. And that's where he was, at the North Tower. So it takes a hell of a lot of courage to go over that rail and stand over there, 220 feet down. But I think it takes even more courage to come back and face everything. And that's why I want them to do that, because it starts their second life, their rebirth on a good note. They made that choice to live that day. So he did. And now he comes out and speaks, and we're hoping to do some more work together until all this came about. But it's a lot of fun when he and I get to go on stage, because it's not about us. It's about the audience, and what can we do to tell our stories to help them. So I'm going to say it's a lot of fun. It's a horrible subject, but people leave knowing that they can not only help themselves, but they can help other people too. And that's the big thing.
I know this story is so incredible to me. I did a little bit of homework on Kevin. What an incredible man. I mean, that is a life transformed, and to have been there for that. So if you haven't seen Kevin before, this particular opportunity that you Kevin have and Mr. Berthia have to help transform, or maybe help us evolve through our race issues right now, just seems so miraculous to me. Have you guys thought at all about how to approach that and what your message could be to people who are struggling with hatred right now?
We have, and we like to be on stage and with the audience. And we talk to folks before and after, just to be there, to get that connection. It's hard to do now. A lot of things are Zoom and doing these on the computer. Yeah. But it's so cool to be with folks. And I think we cross so many barriers, and that's what we're looking at. Neither of us are perfect. We've blown it left and right many, many times. But I think I didn't even see, it's a black guy. Should I change things up or whatever? No, come on. It's an individual over that rail. It doesn't even come into my head, things like that. But that's when you see that picture, you see it. Oh, it's a black guy over the rail and a white cop talking to him. But it went well. I mean, it was supposed to go well. That's what we're there to do, is help folks. Of course, it's all over the news and everything nowadays that of course there's bad cops out there. Every job there ever was or is going to have some bad eggs in it. But I will tell you straight out, the majority of us are trying to do a good job, trying to help folks. Give us a chance. Listen to us. We are not going to put you in harm's way.
Well, I know that, intellectual honesty is so badly needed. It's in such short supply right now. And most people realize what you just said, Kevin. And you said something really interesting, if people picked up on it. You didn't see a black man. No. The whole race thing, to me, this is only my personal opinion, it's a human condition. The whole concept of race is what we have within our minds. And I look at this human condition is exactly that. This is not a race condition. This is a human condition. And suicide and bad times and low points in our lives, I've never, I'm kind of like you, man. I've never looked at law enforcement officers as being different colors, and I've interacted with them. Same thing in the military. I never looked at soldiers, my fellow soldiers, as being a different color. And even in my own life, I've never really played that game. It's a serious game. We're seeing what's going on when race gets interjected into the conversation. But isn't it kind of a personal choice to choose the way we think?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think maybe you're influenced by your friends, maybe you're influenced by your family, maybe you're influenced by your environment and how you grew up. But it's you and how you handle that and how we make that change for the better.
Because Bill just said it, at the heart of this, to me, again, it's just me, man. The heart of this is hatred.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and then it's carried over into latching on to the concept of race. You know, it's real, it's palpable. We're seeing the destruction. But, you know, I have been on the other side of the law back in my early rebellious days as a white guy, growing up with the long hair and all this crazy stuff you do when you're young, and even when you get older, you know. And I fought the law, and the law won. You know, I was disrespectful, and I got treated the way you get treated when you're disrespectful to the law. It doesn't mean, and you know what I mean? I had to learn. I'm not like a guy that was going to end up in San Quentin. And I have to give those law officers amazing respect for realizing that I was just a punk kid, maybe you could say. And even though they were overbearing, I think they handled me quite well. I think that some black folks for sure, we've seen this, may have a different experience, but I don't think that's pervasive like we're saying that it is, unless I'm missing something here.
I don't think so either. And all I can talk for is the highway patrol, but I never stopped someone because of skin color or anything. Didn't come into my mind. Stopped it for what the act was. And generally we were traffic because I was a traffic cop. So I'm looking at the car, I'm looking at what it's doing, you know, or the seatbelt or whatever else. And it's different than a city cop of what we did. But man, I don't know anybody that I ever was around or worked with that did anything that claimed anything. I could stop this guy today because he was black, and I knew it just didn't happen. Now I know it does happen in agencies, and you know you hear about the bad apples and things. But I would tell folks, give us a chance. We are not here to do harm. We want you to be safe. We want you to be happy. You know, these are some tough times. We'll get through it. Patience.
John, I've got a question for Kevin here.
Sure.
It's sort of still formulating in my mind. So, Kevin, I grew up in Palo Alto.
Oh, yeah.
And we lived sort of pretty close to 101 on the, I'll have to say it this way because the only way it makes sense, on the white side of town. And East Palo Alto, the black side of town, was clearly geographically separated by the freeway. And I was reading something not too long ago because I was growing up there in the 60s. I always wonders what's been happening. And dang it all, East Palo Alto is still the place that it was in the 60s. And I thought to myself, how can a neighborhood like that, sitting on top of one of the wealthiest counties in the United States, still exist with that kind of segregation, whether it's enforced or chosen? I don't know. How can that still be, right? I was just like, I was amazed that this situation still exists in the same kind of context that it did in the 60s when I was living there as a kid. How, in your view, can we begin to cross that divide? Maybe it's fear, I don't know, but how can we begin to cross that bridge of bringing human beings together in a way that doesn't require us to isolate in our own neighborhoods?
You know, I think it's about being blended and started with congregations, getting together with folks, having some meetings, and bringing more and more people in. And so, you know what? Oh man, because sometimes we don't even know our neighbors.
True.
I've lived in this condo. I don't know many of the folks here. We don't have. I say, where's your front porch? My place doesn't have a front porch. It's harder and harder to find front porches in America. My grandmother's place up in a little timber town in McLeod, California, awesome place. Every single home up there has a porch. And my grandmother would tell me, when you want to visit, you go out on your porch. And that's where everybody got together, like an Andy Griffith show. We're not seeing these front porches anymore. We need to get back to something like that. On our own time, no stresses, get out and just have some chats.
That's a great point. You know, I think too, you know, to answer another, opinion, what we say about opinions, but I think political leadership has a lot to do with it, because here in the town that I grew up in Sarasota, Florida, the Black neighborhoods have been updated. There has been new construction. There have been, facelifts on the buildings. There's been housing that has gone up. It hasn't stayed the way that it was back when I was growing up. So I think political leadership, without calling anybody out, we're not going to play that game, but political leadership has a lot to do with these neighborhoods. And obviously what you just said, interaction and collaboration. But I think that's something to look at too, is, this leadership that we've got that perhaps sometimes panders for votes. And then when they get the vote, the things that they promise, which maybe doesn't come to fruition.
And of course, then there's the media. How are they going to make this? If I say, hey, we're getting Palo Alto's going to have a meeting with East Palo Alto, and we're going to get as many folks as we can together. What's the media going to say about it? Oh, they're, the white folk are going to have a chat with the black folk and see what's going wrong, what's going bad. Why can't they be? Why do we have to say it like that?
Exactly. Yeah.
We're having a gathering. Everybody's welcome. That's all you got to say. Everybody's welcome. We're going to have fun. We're going to learn about each other. We're going to shake hands. We're going to call each other by their first name, which is another one of the things that I would use talking to somebody over the rail. If they allowed me, everything I do is personalized. If we can get down to that level, which is really, really cool. Hi, I'm just Kevin. If I can get their first name, hey, Bob, man, tell me what's been going on today. I think personally, to personalize something, to get down to that, really, really helps. There's a lot into this, man.
That's a great point, because, in the work that you've done with people who have not wanted to be here, people who have wanted to end it, the story that you relate about the black man that you helped, at a base level, isn't it really, and you said this, man, at the outset, isn't this really about listening? Don't people just want to be heard? Don't they want to have themselves known, be known? Is that,
yeah?
I mean, at the very base level, it seems to me just being accepted is at the core of our issues as humans.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm reading this book right now, and these reports I'm studying on compassion. And a study showed on a primary care physician, there's a study out that's pretty recent that said people, when they go to their primary care physician, generally they need about 40 seconds to state what is going on with them, but they're interrupted at about 11 seconds. It's like, you don't even get 40 seconds out of your doctor? Come on. We got to start listening.
Man, that's
I've done this. I've done this before many, many times, because they want to tell you a story. Not that I have a better story, but it clicks something in my head, and I got to spit it out. I tell them, because I have such a poor memory. I get so many head injuries that even right now, you can see I ran into the shelf, and my whole eye hurts. It's all puffed up. Like, geez.
Sound like me, man.
I got something to say. So, no.
That sounds like a marriage, man. When you're in a marriage, you don't listen to me, and you didn't hear what I had to say. And wow, I hear you, brother. I hear you.
Well, but my experience was a little different, because when I was suicidal, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I had plenty of options, but I was like, Kevin, I was like you. I didn't want to go out of the house, right? I just wanted to internalize. And it's strange, because I've had some of that training too. So what is it called? Mental health first aid and
right.
Question, persuade, refer. And it's all about listening, right? But my question is, so how do you break through that to the person who isolates and doesn't want to come out into the light of day, or even to find a bridge to jump from? That's a tough place to be, to feel that low.
Yeah, I would tell them, man, keep driving on. I talked about setting goals. Maybe the goal when you get up, hey, I'm going to make my bed. Look at that. I accomplished something. It sounds ridiculous, but I did it. I'm going to get up. I'm going to force myself to go in my backyard today for 10 minutes and get some vitamin D, get that sunshine on me. These little things, sometimes that's huge for people.
Yeah.
That was the biggest thing they did all day was, okay, I went out. I have, maybe I'm living with my parents. I'm young, so they keep screaming at me, do something with your life, do something with your life. But is this the best that I can do today? Man, this was it. We take it a day, sometimes an hour at a time. Things can get better. We got to work on it. Remember, we're on top of that triad, self-care. What are you doing for yourself? But you got to want to do it. Drive to do something. Sometimes just taking a few steps outside is all you could do today. That's okay. We're working on it. A work in progress.
Have you done
That's a great
work
advice. I talked to some veterans kind of like that, Bill, like you, not wanting to go outside, or like what you had mentioned, Kevin. And I listened to one guy once where he said all he did for the whole day was get up, sit on the couch, literally put his combat boots on and sit there for the whole day. And then he took them off at the end of the day and went right back to sleep. But he said that was the beginning of his healing journey, just to put the combat boots on. That's powerful, man. What's the name of that book?
That is Compassion. I got it right here. I'm gonna show it up. Hold on.
All right.
Compassion is really key on this, because one of the hardest things for regular people to do is actually show a little. And if somebody presents that's suicidal, that's really difficult. That goes way beyond the average bear's compassion level, right? To do that work.
Yeah. Here's this book.
Compassionomics. I love it, man.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And then I started digging into it more and finding different reports, because I like to do research. And it's neat. I want to have different directions that I talk about. And I say, surround yourself with positive people, with people who are going to be there for you. Not that they're going to listen to you or you can dump on them every single day, but at least they're there. I have coffee at least 3 times a week with a lady in her high 80s, a guy who's a retired dentist who's 83, and another guy who's 71, and I'm 57. And we all meet at this place for coffee, and we sit by these big redwood trees, and we have great conversations. But we're just getting out of the house. 3 folks who well, all different things of life. The one lady, she grew up in Hungary, World War II, had to hide in the basement. She tells us about the bombings and everything.
Wow.
Fascinating stuff. But 3 people from way different directions getting together, and we just chat. And I really look forward to it. I really do. Just to get outside.
That support network is so important.
Yeah.
John and I get to do that with guests here on AHO Radio, and we also run a little call outside of AHO with a very small tribe of people that have those same kinds of conversations. And we've been doing this now on Zoom, but it would be so amazing to hang out in person. I've had the privilege of being part of groups like that throughout my life, and it's just they really resonate for me.
Yeah, and for folks like me who don't get out very often, you think I'm always. I look forward to this time, and I'm not going to let something deter me from getting down there to do that too. It's really neat.
And redwoods.
It's at the top of the pyramid. It's self-care.
It's at the top. Yeah. I think I was going to show you a picture of it.
Kevin, pull your microphone just a little bit closer to your mouth.
Yeah, we lost some dB.
There we go.
That's
perfect.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So if you can see this, here, that's the pyramid. I don't know how close I can get before it.
I'll put the actual image into the stream when we edit it so people can see that. And also I'll put the book in the show notes.
The Guardian of the Golden Gate, Kevin Briggs. So thanks for sharing that. Let me ask you this, Kevin. If I'm a person that's in that dark area, and you mentioned goals, and you mentioned, what are like the top 3 things that you tell people when they're trying to recover from suicidal thoughts or trying to get their life back on track?
What happened to get you into this crisis? I'm talking to somebody that's listening. How did you get to this? What could we have done a little different? Whatever else. Know that you're valued. Maybe you've been put down for a very, very long time, no matter what the circumstances may be. You do have value. You do have self-worth. You are worth it. You can overcome this. It might take some doing. Maybe a lot of times it's years in the making before someone gets to that level to where they're suicidal on that bridge or wherever else. We can't fix this in a day. I'm not going to be able to fix it. Somebody else, the colleagues that I work with, the folks and all over that do the negotiations, we can't fix this stuff. But at least you have the opportunity to try and to get by some support group. Sometimes that's, we know adolescents, kids don't like to call. So instead of using the 1-800 crisis line, they'll text the 741-741, the crisis text line. So there is help out there. I know it's difficult to get appointments to see a psychiatrist, psychologist. For my own boy, we've waited more than a month and a half between appointments. That's BS. That's not right.
Yes.
So these are the things that we have to work around, but try to find a good support group. That is critical. And in speaking with that, I know some folks don't want to. They don't want to tell their story, but at least maybe sit in and hear about others. I spoke with a family, a man and a wife that lost their daughter to suicide, and she was just 13 years old. And I asked them, well, are you part of a grief group that talks about loss of suicide or loss of life by suicide with the kids? He goes, no, we're not ready for that yet. They did not want to hear other stories. They didn't want to share theirs. But that's their way of handling it for right now, maybe down the line. But at least know the options. There's a lot of research that you can look up online for things. And just know there's that 1-800-273-TALK, the crisis line that you can call. That's free of charge. There's folks out there that do care. And sometimes it does take time. But man, you are valuable. Sometimes it takes years. Sometimes it takes decades to find what is your purpose. There's a lot of very famous people who did not really find what they were looking for and do it until 50s and beyond.
Yeah.
So it can take a long time.
Yeah.
But
it can.
it's worth it. You're worth it.
Definitely some great insight.
I'm thinking of someone who clearly had a lot of people he could have talked to, Robin Williams.
Right.
And I can't pretend to understand what he must be going through, but when you've considered suicide yourself, you kind of get to a place where there's an affinity. And I suspect that for you, Kevin, that affinity somehow connected with the person on the rail. And they saw you as more of a brother than as a intervener. You know what I mean? Because there's a big difference between people who are just out there to stop as many suicides as possible, and they're all like, rah-rah about it, and people who are actually doing the work with folks who are on the bridge.
And that's what I want. Someone just to be there for them. Take away this uniform. If I could put something else on and wear it, I would. I don't want to be this authority figure. I want to be there as an individual for them, as a listener.
Does Pivotal Points, Kevin, do any work with those who've, like the couple you mentioned, who'd lost their daughter? Do you work with people who are the left behind after a suicide?
A little bit. I will talk about it but and I tell folks that I'm not a mental health professional. I'd like to keep it on my level, but I want to be able to talk to folks at ground level. What can we do here and now? So I have spoken with folks about their grief. I study this stuff. But I want them to know for sure that they need the professional help. I'm not going to jump in the way of that. But because I'm in this business now and I get this opportunity to meet a lot of people, so I study and I try to better myself on this subject so I can talk about it a bit. But I want them to see a mental health professional. I didn't do it for a very long time, and I suffered for a very long time. Especially we have this macho thing to where, no, suck it up, suck it up, suck it up. And I suffered for a long time. It wasn't until I came out and started talking, man, this is not right. I don't want to go out of the house. I'll go to work and I'm fine and I'm great. But I come back to home and I don't want to leave the house. And I lived this way for a long time. And still I said, you know what? I'm tired of this. Life's passing me up. That's when things started to change.
Listening to you, Kevin, and some of the things that I'm deciphering from the story and your experience. And one of the reasons why we even have this show is about authenticity. And when you take authenticity and you combine it with being vulnerable yourself from your own experiences, the people that are there, because I made the call. I was contemplating crossing the median and running into a truck, and I'm glad I made the call. But the point is that when you people can pick up on that. And that's immediately what I picked up on the phone with the young lady that was on the other end. When you can take your life experiences and put yourself in a position of service to the public like you have for so many years, it resonates. And I think that the people that actually want the help, it resonates with them. And that's why you've been able to find success. When no doubt that the George Floyd incident was not just a crime against Blacks, it was a crime against all of humanity. And it showed humanity at its very worst in both cases. I think it's important for us to look inside and to be level-headed and to use some, brain power to think about what's really going on here,
Right.
with each of us in our own lives. Because I know, and and Bill knows that everybody has value.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever said that we didn't.
Right. And a lot of this is training. I was up speaking in Bend, Oregon a while back, and the chief of police introduced me. And when he was introducing me, he talked about crisis intervention training, CIT, which I'm sure you folks are familiar with. But he said since he introduced that to his department, the rates and the use of force has dropped 50%. So
Awesome.
That's why I stress to managers is when I speak at police agencies, is look into CIT as a start. I know a lot of folks don't want to be a negotiator, don't want to get into that. Maybe they want to do SWAT, maybe they want to get in, have a drug dog or motorcycles, whatever that may be. But at least go through the CIT training, crisis intervention training. It gives them a clue of what we're looking at, because mental health calls are only going up. We're getting more and more and more of those. And we need some kind of training to, wow, how are we dealing? Instead of drop the knife, drop the knife, drop the knife. How about, why are you holding the knife? What is going on? We can stay back. There's still, I think our use of force is going to be taken away greatly, but I think we need to understand our use of force better and have a tweak on the policies a bit, but to have some mental health training.
Yeah, I have to agree, because suicide doesn't happen at the moment where you're ready to jump. It's the symptom of a long, long road of a bunch of other stuff. And oftentimes, especially as guys, we ignore a lot of that stuff. I ignored it for a long time in my life. I'm maybe 5-6 years away now from my first trauma-informed therapy, even though I started therapy in my 30s. So being able to come forward and say, yeah, I really need this help at an earlier moment is one way to get ahead of this stuff. How do you encourage specifically, let's say, guys in their 30s and 40s to be able to talk about these things? I know young veterans are doing a great job with that, but from where you sit, Kevin, how would you encourage a millennial to sort of take that perspective and say, hey, I could use some help here?
So do a self note. Take a line, and what is your quality of life right now? How was it 5 years ago? How was it 10 years ago? Where do you want it to be? Write things down. I used to be a lot more active. I used to go out a lot. I used to do this. I used to do that. What's holding you from that? What is going on? And why would you not seek help? What can happen? I thought, since I was still on the highway patrol, that one, maybe I'll get fired. Two, maybe I'll lose a lot of friends. I'll be made fun of. Nothing like this. I'm doing this show.
Yeah.
I speak to folks. I'm doing 30, 40, 50 presentations a year before all this corona virus came about. So I made thousands of friends, but because I came out and talked about it and was real about it, this is not right. I can't sleep at night. This is what's going on. So I went through eye movement desensitization therapy, and it really helped. The lady said, you know what? I can't take that trauma away, but that face that's right there every single night, we're going to try to get it so it's way out there. And John, I know you're familiar with that, and Bill, you may be.
Oh yeah, done EMDR. And as a piano player, it turns out I've been doing it all my life, the left-right thing with my hands.
Ah, there you go.
I just didn't know what it was
weird,
called,
isn't
right?
It? It's weird.
Well,
it worked, and it helped.
Well, you mentioned also TBI. Mine was kind of a double whammy. I had the childhood assault, which affected me in a very odd way. And then, with self-esteem issues, and then always overachieving and never giving myself credit. Right. But then the TBI, and you mentioned the bump on your head, it kind of put a different element to that stressful situation, you know, because I know that I'm not the same. And I always say it doesn't get really better. It just gets different. And that's the head injury.
Yeah.
You know, being able to learn different ways of handling stress. You know, you talk about taking one day at a time, and you talked about maybe sometimes 1 hour at a time. And I can't stress that enough, because if you give yourself that time, Kevin, that you mentioned, and that Bill talked about, one day at a time, that belief system locked in your own head could be the difference between finding success and not being here.
Right. Totally agree with you on that one. And, you know, we all have bad mental health days. It's the way it is. But if those days turn into a couple of weeks, it's time to start talking to somebody. It really is.
I agree. I've spent a lot of time during COVID reaching out to people that I don't normally talk to, just to make sure that they've got some connection. And it's starting to come back to me too. So people are reaching out to me saying, "Hey, Bill, you know, how's it going today? We talked a couple of weeks ago. You didn't seem so great. How are you? How are you today?"
Very cool.
It's, you know, it's
Very
phone,
cool.
it's Zoom, it's whatever, but it's contact.
And I would add on to that, because I'm thinking there's times that I don't want to reply. And then now it's 3-4 days. Now it's 2 weeks. Now it's 3 weeks. And I go, oh my God, now I'm so embarrassed. I will add that to that. If I'm typing to someone or something, you don't have to reply to this. I just want to let you know that I'm checking on you. And that's how we help folks continue on. Even a text. Hey man, I was thinking about you today. Hope you're doing okay. You don't have to reply. Just let you know I'm thinking about you. And that way, for me anyway, now it's, oh my God, now I have to reply to this. Now I got to do this. It's something else I got to do, because little things sometimes for me seems like big chores.
Right. Yeah.
Even going across the street to the mailbox. I'm like, oh my God, I don't have all the medical knowledge to evaluate all this, but I will tell you things. Oh my God, I got to do this tomorrow. And it's something that takes 10 minutes, but I'll spend 8 hours thinking about it. That has my mind. So I don't want to be a burden like that to someone about, say, hey, just letting you know I was thinking about you. You don't even have to reply. Just let you know I'm there. And that way, folks, wow, that was really cool. Thanks for checking up on me.
You know, I would be knocked over just in such a good way if I got an email from you and, you know, just like, hey, Bill, just want to let you know I'm thinking about you. Wouldn't that just blow you away if you got something like that, John, in the mail?
Something simple like that. Now, you know what, though? It's kind of funny because you mentioned it coming back to you. What you put out, it comes back. And I'm amazed because there's been a lot of cool things going on. And Kevin mentioned, you know, the support group. You know, there's so many people in my network, and I love each and every one of them for even checking on me at times. And even Kevin, in the last 3 years, we've kind of touched base at times before, and, you know, we're looking out for each other. You know, what's the future for Kevin Briggs? What do you see? You know, you talk about one day at a time, and we're in COVID, but what's the future for Kevin Briggs? What do you hope to do, Kevin?
I hope to continue this for at least another 5 years, to go out and talk to folks. I'll do the Zoom things. I'm getting asked to do that some, but I'm still going. Let's see, the end of July, I got a few things going on. I'm going to, the Choctaw Nation in Oklahoma.
Awesome.
In a bit, to speak to folks there, and the CCPOA, the California Correctional and Peace Officers Association, still having their annual meeting. I'm doing a keynote to 1,400 folks or so in Vegas at Caesars. So I want to be able to do that. And then I tell folks I'm going to be there before. I'll meet with anybody and everything. And afterwards, if folks want to come up and chat and talk, I like to do that. Because just by telling my example, this is what happened to me, this is why I didn't seek help, or all the things that some of the things I've been through and how it can help somebody else. When we talk to someone who may be suicidal, we've noticed these different things. What do we say? What do we not say? Why don't we do this? So, you know, the validation and the normalization is huge. To get out and do that, I'm a traffic cop. So it's difficult to go on stage and talk to folks like, oh my God, what the hell am I doing? I'm thinking of this when I'm on stage too. But it is so cool to get up there and see people who are interested and they want to learn this. And I get to go to colleges, and I am absolutely stunned and amazed how many people come and watch this, and they're not coming to see Kevin Briggs. I don't say that at all. It's nothing about ego. It's about they want to see how can they help themselves and how can they help out somebody else.
Would you be available to do like Zoom chats if like a Rotary Club wanted you to come and talk to them? Can you do that?
I do that, yeah.
That'd be cool. It's good to know, just because in COVID right now, all of our speaking engagements are gone, our live appearances are gone. So, but we still have the message.
Right, and I'm learning this. I'm trying to see, okay, to do a PowerPoint, because I love visuals. To do a PowerPoint on a Zoom, I'm still learning this stuff, so they'll have to bear with me. But
no, you want any help? We can help out, man. We do this. This is what we do.
I'm kind of, come on, man. I'm 61. I remember dime telephone calls, right?
33-cent gas.
Phones. But how can people find out, Kevin, more about you personally, and like get a copy of your book, or if they're interested in booking you as a keynote speaker? Tell us about how they can do that.
Well, I think if you just Google my name, Kevin Briggs, some stuff comes up, but you can look at www.pivotal-points.com. That's a good way. And also Kevin Briggs at pivotal-points.com.
I'll put it in the show notes for you, Kevin, so listeners can find you.
So,
and the book, what about the book? The book, they can get it there too, or is there another place?
On Amazon. Available there, or they can order it from their bookstore, Guardian of the Golden Gate. And I want to tell you this, I'm not a big fan of that name. My publisher will kill me on this one, but I believe there's many Guardians and many Golden Gates all over the world. If we can take a family and a son is having a difficult time, but the father's talking to him, he's a guardian, man. They're all, I tell the negotiators, if I'm not making a connection with someone over that rail or wherever I am, I'm going to get somebody else to take over. Because it is not about us. It's about that individual. It's very, very important.
Let me ask you this, Kevin. Do you have a personal mantra that you live by every day?
The big one that I tell folks is listen to understand. When I'm talking to folks, that's what I want to do. I'm going to throw out information, but I think that's a big one, and just strive little increments to be better. Sometimes we can't make these big leaps. We're not signing this bonus for $1 million with our company or something, these giant ones that are really cool. Sometimes it's the little things, just going out and having coffee with folks. That is so important to me.
Socially distant coffee.
Yeah. I mean, great. The work that you're doing, man, is so inspirational and so badly needed. You mentioned, how complex the world is these days and all the things that are challenging. And it's nice to know that guys like you, and I mean this, man, we've had dinner together. Remember that place we went to?
We went.
It was good, but guys like you, I'm telling you, man, and I mean this from my heart. People like you make the world a freaking better place. And
thank you.
When you know that guys like you exist, people like Bill and I think to ourselves, and I know I can speak for Bill because I know him intimately. We're just glad to be part of all of this. It makes our job maybe not necessarily easier, I would say comforting. And me personally, I've been inspired by you since the day I met you. And I've been stalking you, man, watching your stuff, but you with Pivotal Points and what you've done to help humankind is without a doubt pretty damn needed. And I want to thank you for that.
Well, thank you guys. Thank you both. What you're doing with this, getting the word out, talking to lots of different folks, getting different views. This is really cool. I keep getting asked a lot to do interviews and all that, but it's not me. I'm on this side of it. I'll be the interviewee, so to speak. So this is wonderful that you guys are doing this and help on different subjects to help better mankind.
Thank you.
Kevin, thank you so much. It's truly a pleasure to be able to be here and to offer another platform to get your message out. That's just, it feels really good to be that facilitator, I guess is a good way of saying it. But more than that, to know that you're doing this work is just so beautiful to both me and John. And I can't thank you enough on behalf of everybody who's out there listening. Just, keep the faith, keep doing what you do.
Stay safe and be well, my friend.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you you for joining us on this episode of AHO Radio. Information we mentioned is probably in the show notes, but if we missed anything, please let us know and we'll get it added for you. Subscribe to the AHO Radio channel on YouTube to stay connected, and, as always, we wish you health, success, and significance. AHO!